Hi, today I'm going to take you through some of the steps I use to create a rubber stamp. I wanted to create a rubber stamp for some placemats that are approximately 2 by 3 inches. So the first step I did was I drew a rectangle, approximately 2 by 3 inches. Once I had that box, I had basically the basis for me to get started. I wanted to have a little border around the box, so I'm going to make a smaller box. I do that by copying my original box and make sure that the um, aspect ratio is unlocked, and I'm going to kind of line it up and shrink it to about where I want it to fit. I want it to be a little bit smaller than my entire outside box. I'm going to select them both, and I'm going to use the Arrange tool, Align tool, to align both the horizontal and vertical axis so it's centered exactly in the box. I'm going to copy that inner box again and paste it. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller because I want this to be a outline of a box. So I'm going to make it almost like a very thin line box. So I'm selecting the inner box and making it a little bit smaller than the outer box. I'm going to again align them vertically and horizontally so that I know that they're perfectly aligned. I'm going to take my outside box and move it to the side. Take my inside box and I'm going to subtract it overlap using the Combine tool. This allows me to make a kind of thin border. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to align it inside my regular box. I'm going to select them both, align them again, and this time I'm going to use the subtract at overlap again. And when you see I click the engrave box now, I have a square with a kind of thin line around it. I'm going to copy my box and paste it because I'm actually going to make 2 stamps today. I want to put that one to the side to use for later. I'm going to add some text to my place card. This is going to be a Thanksgiving place card, so I'm going to use a message like, "I'm thankful for you." I'm going to pick a font that's kind of like a handwritten font that I like a lot, that I think fits well for this place card. And here's another little trick for combining text. I'm going to take that text, I'm going to copy it, and I'm going to paste it. This is going to allow me to kind of weld the letters together. So I'm going to select them all. Again, I'm going to pick Combine. This time I'm going to do Unite. And you can see that the spaces between the letters have kind of closed off. You can see it a lot better here when you go to the engrave mode. Because I'm going to make a rubber stamp, everything's going to be reversed. So I'm going to take my text, I'm going to reflect it because it needs to be reversed because it's a stamp. And I'm going to size it up so it fits nicely inside of my box. Use the horizontal align tool to make sure it's centered. I'm going to select both items, and then again I'm going to pick subtract at overlap, and that's going to cut out the text. You can see now here I have a perfect relief of that object. If I want to add a graphical design, I'm going to pick the leaf icon. Seems appropriate for the fall. I'm going to bring that over. I think because I like the way it's positioned, I'm going to flip it because it's going to be reverse or mirror image again because it's a stamp. I'm going to size it, rotate it a tiny bit. I'm going to select the stamp and change it to cut so I can see a little bit better where I'm positioning the leaf. I'm going to move that over. Select both again by dragging across and subtract it unite. So sorry, subtract it overlap. I'm going to do engrave, and you can see now I have my rubber stamp template. And that's kind of good enough for what I want to do for now. The thing to remember with stamps is what's white is going to be black, and what's black is going to be, or the opposite, or not stamped. So in that case, most of it's carved out. You're going to have a stamp of a leaf with the text in the color of the ink. So the next one I want to do, I want to take a picture of a turkey I have, and I'm going to put that on the card. I have that turkey in the form of a GIF, so I'm going to go to an outside website and convert that turkey to an SVG. This is a free website. There's a lot out there. If you search for, convert PNG or JPEG to SVG, you can find them. You can download it. Once it's downloaded, you can now open it up using the image import button in XCS. I'm going to pick my turkey icon. I'm going to import it. I imported pretty big, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of move that whole image off to the side. And you can see those little green boxes around. Those are different kind of layers in the SVG. So I'm going to do a subtracted overlap, and that's going to fuse that turkey image all together. I hit the engrave button just to kind of spot check that it looks the way I expect it to look. I can see all the turkey outline the way I would expect it to look. It's not inverse or wrong in any way. So now I'm going to kind of resize it. Again, I'm going to go take my place card, turn it to cut so I can see where it's going to fit inside. My turkey's going to fit inside the card. I'm going to size it and place it around where I'd like it to fit. I'm using the cursor keys to do micro adjustments once I kind of get it roughly to where I want to. Looks good. I like how it's spaced. I'm going to select everything again. I'm going to go to Combine and Subtracted Overlap again to make my image the way I want. So again, here you see again that what's orange is going to be what's cut out, what's white is going to be what's left, and that's what's going to be part of the stamp when you print it, or when you go to use the stamp. I've taken and put my rubber material on the bed of my M1. I'm going to place the image. I'm going to click Auto Measure first, just because that's going to help me align it. Auto Measure is always going to align it correctly, or help you align it correctly. Now I'm going to see if there's a rubber stamp choice here. I don't see it, so I can click the More button, and that's going to bring up a little pop-up window where I can type in rubber stamp or rubber mat, and I'm going to use that. And that's going to give me the settings that are predefined. I do need to go back and click Auto Measure because when you pick a material, it automatically kind of resets the height. So I click Auto Measure again. You can see now the settings for my engrave are defined here. Instead of user defined, I see that I have the xTool reference. Again, these are references, and you may need to kind of tweak and adjust it, but for now, I'm going to go with it. Power 100, speed 40, pass 2, and lines per centimeter is 200. I'm going to take it and I'm going to align my image up to the corner. I'm going to try to get as much of the rubber mat as I can so I can reuse the other parts of the rubber mat for other stamps later on. I'm going to tuck it right up into the corner. Remembering what you see in orange is what's going to get cut away, so even if it isn't perfectly aligned to the edge there, it's going to be okay. So I hit Process, and now we're going to see the framing menu. Oh, I forgot to turn off one of the images. I'm only going to do one stamp at a time. So I come back here, I select that image, and you can see the output. I'm going to unclick that. So I'm only really processing this one at a time. Click Process again. And it gives me a ballpark estimate of 68 minutes. It was around here where I had the idea of why am I going to engrave out all that blank space when I could just kind of cut it away. So at this point I stopped my framing and I went back and I said, let me cut out the shape in the middle because that's going to be blank anyways. So I kind of came in and trimmed up. So here I'm using the rectangle box. Once I select the rectangle box, I select them both. I do combine and subtract, and that's going to trim away some of that border. And the reason why I don't need it is because the part that you see in orange is going to get engraved away, and it's going to be blank on the stamp, so you're not going to see it anyways. So I can trim it and make it a little bit smaller and waste a little less material and bring my time down a little bit and use a little less laser to do it. So just one by one I'm drawing rectangles around the box just to kind of isolate the part that needs to be engraved and not engraved, using the subtract feature from the combine menu. Drawing that line, giving it a little bit of room because I want the stamp to be able to mount to a wood block and have that kind of outline border. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out some in the middle. Again, I don't need to, that's just going to be wasted space. So I'm going to draw some shapes in the middle to kind of clear off some of that space that would just take time to engrave. So it's going to save me a little time. It's going to save some of the usage of the laser because it doesn't need to engrave that space. It's not going to save a ton of time because when you're doing engraving, it still needs to move side to side, top to bottom. So it'll shave a little bit of time, but not as much as you would, I guess, think by cutting out this whole space. So as I draw the shape, I'm just kind of careful not to overlap with any of my my turkey there. So I draw a rectangle first. I'm going to draw a couple more shapes to just kind of box off the turkey. Select that box and turn it to cut again so it's a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. Line that up, and I'm just isolating the space around the turkey because I can just cut that out and I don't need to take the time to engrave it. One more shape here. I just want a little triangle to cut off between the space. And this happens to me all the time. I'm sure it happens to you when you draw a shape. It often puts, or it always puts it up in the top corner, and if you're kind of zoomed in, sometimes you have to zoom out to find it. Grab the wrong object there, go back, grab my triangle. I'm going to rotate it. Again, I'm just kind of eyeballing how I want it to fit so that I'm not needing to cut as much material or engrave as much material to make the stamp, the relief for the stamp. So that's kind of all set and where I want it to go. I'm going to select the three objects, the rectangle, the triangle, and the other rectangle. I'm going to combine them by clicking Unite. I'm going to flip it over to Engrave to just see if it fits the way I think it does. It looks good. I'm going to copy that object. The reason why I'm going to copy it is because, oh, I forgot. I'm going to draw a little bit of a vector here just to eat up a little bit more space, or take away a little bit more space so that I don't have to carve it out as much. I'm going to join that again with my outer engraved spot by clicking Unite. Looks good. Now I'm going to copy it, paste a copy of it, and move it to the side. The reason why I'm going to do that is the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract the space from the turkey stamp altogether. I'm going to do that by selecting all, doing combine, subtracted overlap. And when I show you engrave here, you'll see this is what the stamp looks like now. I'm going to take my other object, I'm going to change it to cut. I'm going to move it over here. And the reason why I'm going to do that is, even though I'm that's wasted space. I still need to get rid of it, and rather than engrave it, I'm just going to cut it away. And there may be enough space there for me to do another rubber stamp with what's left over. So now I'm ready to go. Everything looks good. I need to set the cut settings on the rubber stamp. So I click on that, and make sure it's set to cut. And then this one kind of surprised me. I didn't realize that there was no xTool defined parameters for cutting a rubber stamp. I remember from a rubber stamp I did before, I believe I cut it at 100 power and like around 20 or 30 millimeters a second. So I'll do a quick test to make sure that that's the right cut settings. So now selecting the cut again, I'm going to go and adjust the power. Percent and speed. I guess, yeah. I'll do a quick test first to see if 10 is the right setting. So with all that, I'm ready to go to process and engrave and cut my stamp.